LawSikho's thorough newspaper analysis for 12th September 2023. Now, the editorial session talks about online games of chance versus games of skill, what Supreme Court staying Karnataka High Court order means, which we have taken from the Indian Express. Then we will talk about the news update, which will include the national news, international news, important days, awards and sports. And lastly, we'll talk about the legal news update coming from Honorable Supreme Court and the High Court of High Court. Now, whenever we talk about the editorial session, we generally understand what was the history and the context behind it and why it is in the news and why are we talking about it. So let us understand online games of chance versus games of skill, what Supreme Court staying Karnataka High Court order means. So starting with the context, the Supreme Court on September 6th ordered an interim stay on the Karnataka High Court, ruling that online games like Rummy are not taxable as betting and gambling under the Central Goods and Services Act 2017. This comes after the Union Cabinet approved the GST Council's recent decision to hike the GST rate for online games from 18% to 28%. Now, essentially, the stay indicates that online skill games played for stakes are at par with online gambling when it comes to matters of taxation as of now. It also undoes the Karnataka High Court's order differentiating games of chance from games of skill and reasoning that the two should be taxed differently. The Honorable Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud led bench was acting on the GST department's plea against the Karnataka High Court order, which had quashed the department's show cause notice to the online gaming company Gamescraft Technologies for dues worth rupees 21,000 crore. Now, we need to understand what is the Karnataka High Court ruling on this particular matter. On May 11th, a single judge bench of Justice S.R. Krishna Kumar of the Karnataka High Court dealt with the question of whether online games would be considered games of skill or chance under Entry 6 of Schedule 3 of the Goods and Services Act 2017, which entails that lottery, betting and gambling are taxable as actionable games. Now, notably, the games of skill attract 19% of GST while the games of chance attract 28% of GST. The plea challenging the GST department notice was filed by Gamescraft, an online intermediary company incorporated in June 17 and headquartered in Bangalore, which allowed over 10 lakh users across the country to play skill-based online games against each other. The company also stated that it was registered under the Central Goods and Services Tax Act 2017 and Karnataka Goods and Services Tax Act 2017. According to Gamescraft, a majority of this were rummy games previously held to be games of skill. Meanwhile, the GST department argued that rummy was a game of chance and thus liable to 28% of taxation. Now, when it comes to High Court ruling on this, Rummy is substantially and preponderantly a game of skill and not of chance. And whether the players were playing with stakes or not, Rummy is not gambling. The same would apply in online and offline modes of the game alike. Now, the High Court further stated that terming the GST department show cause notice dated 23rd September as illegal, arbitrary and without jurisdiction, the court set it aside. The court further added, the pursual of the imperfect show cause notice as well as contentions and submissions of the respondent clearly indicated that they were an outcome of a vain and futile attempt to cherry-pick stray sentences from the judgments of various courts in an attempt to build upon a non-existent case out of nothing, which clearly amounts to splitting hairs and clutching at straws, which cannot be counter-enhanced and is impermissible in law. What did the GST department's notice state on September 8th, the GST department issued an intimidation notice under Section 74, Clause 5 of the CGST Act, calling upon Gamescraft to deposit a hefty sum along with interest and penalty by 16 September. Now, whenever we talk about the particular editorial part, we need to understand what is the law states about it. So we'll be dealing with Section 74 Clause 5, Section 50, and Section 74 Clause 1. And this is a particular provision which we need to look upon and to decide what the Supreme Court says on the Karnataka High Court order ruling. Now, High Court approached second time. Thus, it was a show cause notice that led the gaming company to approach the Karnataka High Court again. And in its ruling, the court also drew a distinction between game of skill and game of chance. How are game of skill different from game of chance? Let us understand that. The Karnataka High Court also said that there is a distinct difference between games of skill and games of chance, particularly referring to the two-judge bench. Karnataka High Court verdict in All India Gaming Federation versus State of Karnataka 2022. The said ruling is a total and a complete answer to the issues in the case, the court said. In 2022, the decision, the High Court struck down the parts of Karnataka Police Amendment Act 2021, which amended the Principal Act of 1963 to treat games of skill on par with games of chance and resulted in the criminalization of playing or facilitating online games. Now, what did the GST department notice state? The 2022 ruling also cited the Kerala High Court's decision by the single judge in Head Digital Works Private Limited versus State of Kerala, which state that as such, playing for stakes or playing not for stakes can never be a criteria to find out whether a game is a game of skill. The game of online rummy will also have to be held to be a game of skill. Before this, 2020, the top court in Skill Lotto Solutions versus Union of India held that lottery, betting and gambling can be subjected to tax. However, the Karnataka High Court in the present case observed that the question of whether a game of skill, either wholly or predominantly, could still be classified as lottery, betting and gambling remained to be seen. Now, the national news of the day, G20 leaders commit to WTO reforms to have fully functional dispute settlement system by 2024. On September 9th, G20 leaders expressed their commitment to conducting discussions for having a fully and well-functioning dispute settlement system of WTO by 2024. We remain committed to conducting discussions with a view to having a fully and well-functioning dispute settlement system accessible to all members at WTO by 2024. Now, the declaration comes a day after a bilateral meeting was conducted between the Prime Minister Modi and US President Joe Biden on September 8th. The ministerial conference in the WTO top decision-making body, which holds a meeting at least once every 2 years, the event is attended by trade ministers and other senior officials from the organization's 164 members. The previous ministerial conference was held in Geneva in June 2022. The 13th WTO ministerial conference is set to take place in Abu Dhabi, UAE, in February 2024. Please note that this can be a relevant question for your competitive examinations. On September 9th, G20 leaders expressed their commitment to conducting discussions for having a fully and well-functioning dispute settlement system of WTO by 2024. Now, coming up to the next news update. India, Brazil, South Africa, US reaffirm strong commitment to G20 cooperation. The leaders of India, Brazil, South Africa, and US met on the margins of G20 Leaders Summit in New Delhi to reaffirm the commitment to the G20 as a premier forum for international economic cooperation to deliver solutions. We, the leaders of India, Brazil, South Africa, and US, met on the margins of G20 Leaders Summit in New Delhi to reaffirm our shared commitment to the G20 as a premier forum for international economic cooperation to deliver solutions for our shared world, according to joint statement. India holds the presidency of G20 until November 30. Brazil will assume the presidency in 2024 and South Africa will take over in 2025. Now, coming up to the next national news, SBI unveils national first transit card for digital fare payments. SBI has introduced nation first transit card to facilitate seamless and convenient customer commuting experience and ensure easy digital ticketing fare payments in metro, buses, water ferries and parking through a single card. In addition, individual can also use this RuPay National Common Mobility Card prepaid card for making retail and e-commerce payment. This will not only ease the life of our customers, but also contribute to the growth of our country. It unveils National First Transit Card. Now, Airbus and Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya signed MOU to develop skilled workforce in India. Indian Railways Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya, Vadodara, and Airbus has signed a MOU, that is Memorandum of Understanding, to significantly strengthen the Indian Aviation Center. MOU was signed on September 7th, and it was signed in the presence of Minister of Railways, Ashwini Vaishnaw. Now, Airbus and Tata had recently announced a partnership to design, innovate, make, manufacture, develop in India C-295 aircraft facility at Vadodara, Gujarat. Let us talk about what is Airbus and Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya. Airbus is world's largest manufacturer of commercial aircraft and a leading producer of helicopters, defense and space equipment. The company has a long-standing relationship of symbiotic growth with India. Gati Shakti Vishwavidyalaya Vadodara was established through the Act of Parliament in 2022 for creating best-in-class manpower and talent for the entire transport and logistics sectors. The GSV is a university aiming to fulfill the mandate of national development plans across railways, shipping, ports, highway, road, waterways, and aviation. Now, the international news, Coco Gauff clinches 2023 title, becomes youngest American winner since Serena Williams. US teenager Coco Gauff has made a comeback to secure a maiden tennis major victory, claiming the US Open Women's Single title after beating Aina Sabalenka in New York on September 9. In doing so, Gauff became the youngest American US Open champion since Serena Williams won it back in 1999 at the age of 17. Now, the USA's Chris Evert and Serena hold the record for most US Open title won by women, followed by Steffi Graf. Now, let us talk about some exam facts. Novak defeated Daniel Medvedev in the US Open final on Sunday to equal Margaret Court's record 24 Grand Slam single titles in the Open era. Now, Ethiopia announces completion of filing of disputed Nile Dam. Ethiopia has announced that it had completed the fourth and final phase of filing a reservoir for its planned massive hydroelectric power plant on the Blue Nile, a project that Egypt and Sudan have long opposed. Now, what is the dispute between Egypt and Sudan? The Egypt and Sudan, however, consider the project a serious threat to their vital water supplies. The three countries have been in protracted negotiations over the project. The announcement from Utopia has come just a fortnight after the country restarted negotiation after a long break. The negotiations are on an agreement over the Nile water that takes into account water needs of all three countries. Egypt is already facing water scarcity. The country views Utopia Dam as an existential threat since Egypt relies on Nile for 97% of its water needs. Now, David Warner breaks Sachin Tendulkar's long-standing record in international cricket. Australian opening batter David Warner broke one of the greatest international cricket record of legendary Indian cricket Sachin Tendulkar. The 36-year-old Aussie left-hander batter Warren broke Sachin's most international centuries record as an opener. It was the second game of the fifth match ODI series between the hosts, South Africa, and visitors, Australia, at Bloemfontein. The Australians earned a 2-0 lead in the series after winning the second match by 123 runs. Now, what is Sachin Tendulkar's record? Indian cricketer Sachin Tendulkar previously held the record for most international century as an opener with 45 hundreds. Now, the legal update coming from the Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Central Bureau of Investigation versus Dr. R.R. Kishore. Article 20 subclause 1 of the Constitution does not bar retrospective application of procedural changes in criminal trial. While holding that, the 2014 judgment declaring the Section 6A of the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act 1946 to be unconstitutional will have a retrospective effect. The court analyzed the contours of Section 6A, especially in the context of the protection safeguard under 20 subclause 1 of the Indian Constitution. The verdict was delivered by a Constitution bench of Justices Sanjay Kishan Gaul, Justice Sanjeev Khanna, Justice Abhay S. Oka, Justice Vikram Nath, and Justice J.K. Maheshwari. Answering the reference, the Constitution bench has now ruled that its earlier decision will have a retrospective operation. Now, that's all for the news update and the legal news update of the day. Thank you for watching. Keep learning.